I'm the Book Baron. Welcome in, everybody. Can you believe that we're to fall? I'm so excited. I love this time of year. I love everything about fall. The fact that another one's rolled around makes me very excited. That face was distressing. But I have a question for you all before I get started. Okay, so this past couple of months, we tested out the whole every other month TBR. I'm a little bit split on whether I continue with that or I go back to every month. I kind of like having a little bit more freedom with my reading. Right now I'm on a Sam Mariano / Morelli family series deep dive, and I kind of love that I was just able to do that. I mean, I ignore my TBRs anyway half the time, so is it really any that different than what I'm normally able to do? So that part's nice, but also sometimes I felt a little unmoored because I didn't have a list that I felt jived with how I was feeling as closely, because let's be honest, my interest in my TBR books lasts about maybe 2 weeks. And if I don't read them in that time, she's not getting to them. Also, I really like doing TBR videos, so I don't know. What do you guys want? What do you guys like? Tell me all the things. Okay, now that we're past that, my mood for my fall TBR is all over the place, all over the place. I am going to be continuing on with Mafia reads, definitely the Morelli family, because something about fall and Mafia goes together in my brain, and I am completely unclear as to why. But my TBR, truly all over the place. We have sports, we have sci-fi, we have new adult, we have classic dark. It's a lot. It's a lot. I've even got some new releases on there. I don't know what to tell you. I'm in a mood. I had to put on a little bit of everything because I'm excited about a lot of different stuff right now. And also nothing at the same time. It's very conflicting, very confusing. Probably the slump talking. Let's just jump into the most eligible bachelors for at least the upcoming month. You guys decide. First off, I am absolutely continuing on in the Morelli family series. Just a reminder, with this series, it's a mafia dark romance. What? She hasn't filmed in a minute. It's a dark mafia romance series. It's got a lot of just juicy family drama and kind of got some suspense going on. It's very fun. But just a reminder with this series, you do have to read it in order. Even though it follows different couples, there's a lot of carryover between the books. So the first book is Accidental Witness, but the books that I am for sure going to read this month, although I'll probably finish the series if I'm being honest, I'll be getting to Once Burned, which is the third book in the series, and this is Adrian. He's Mateo's kind of right-hand man / hitman, his fixer guy. He, in this book, is kind of trying to strike out on his own and go legit, and he ends up bringing one of the maids from Mateo's house who's been kind of in indentured servitude. He ends up saving her from that and bringing her with him. It's them trying to figure out their life away from the Morelli family. It sounds like it's gonna be a lot harder than they ever anticipated, especially because neither of them really have skill sets outside of mafia life. And also, there is a mob war brewing at the moment, so it's gonna be hard to stay away. This is the book that I had to read the irreparable duet in order to get to. So just a heads up, you do also have to read that if you haven't already, unless you don't care. And then in which case, if it gets spoiled, I guess it doesn't matter. So I'm definitely gonna be reading that one. I also am going to for sure read the fourth book.
Hi, it's me, back to fix my fuck-ups. So I realized upon editing this, never say the name of the title. It's Family Ties. You are so welcome. All right, let's get back to it.
This one jumps in size, so this is why I'm kind of I'm not going to commit to more than the third and fourth book this month, just in case this tanks my interest. The rest of the books have been under 300, more 250. So this one being 600, I'm ooh. But we'll see. We'll see. I've heard it comes in multiple parts. But this one is about Francesca, Mateo's sister, who runs the bakery, and she has a little bit of a forbidden romance. Like I said, I'll probably read more than 2 in this series, but just because that one's 600 pages, I'm just on the off chance that really just does something to me, we're gonna just only commit to those 2. The next book that I have for you is The Truth About Heartbreak, which is by B. Celeste. So this is first in an interconnected series. It's new adult, brother's best friend, forbidden type of romance, and apparently there is some cheating in here. The synopsis on this is not only vague, it's so brief. There's almost nothing to it. There's kind of a list of some tropes that it checks off, and then there's literally, I'm not joking, 3 or 4 lines, and that's it. That's the synopsis of this book. So I am trying to put 2 and 2 together and make 5, and it's a struggle.
The irony of me saying I'm trying to put 2 and 2 in together and make 5 after struggling so hard with numbers last month is just a level of ridiculous I was unprepared to hear me say. Anyway, let's get back to it, shall we? Okay, bye.
So it sounds like our heroine had a childhood crush, like when she was like in her early teens, on the hero. The hero sounds like he is her brother's best friend. He's a little bit mysterious, slightly older guy, obviously best friends with the brother. I feel like I've said that 4 times. We get the idea. Okay, fantastic. For whatever reason, this is forbidden. I don't know if he's like from the wrong side of the tracks. Is he a playboy? We don't know. But it sounds like they have a one-night stand that ends up changing things, but it sounds like he probably cheated on a significant other when that happened. So, can't really turn into more. So that's what I think happened. If someone has read this and you're like, you didn't even get close, you're right. The synopsis is so bad, but I'm excited to read this one because I'm going to hopefully signing where the author is going to be. I've always been interested in her books because it sounds like she tends to bring some kind of like more emotional components to her romances. Some of them are like love stories, not romances, and I can't commit to a non-HEA. So I'm gonna start with this one. And also something about new adult just appeals a little bit more to me in the fall. I think because I think of like high school and going to college and just like reliving my youth, which I'm very far away from at this point. Next up, I have Taken to Varaxia, I hope I pronounced that correctly, by Elizabeth Stevens. So this is the same author that did Dark City Omega, which I really like. This book recently went wide, but I found it on Hoopla, so I'm gonna snag it there. This is a first in an interconnected series, and it's sci-fi alien romance. It says interracial, so I'm curious if that means interracial human or how that works with aliens. Wouldn't that be interspecial? I don't know. Regardless, and there's a fated mates aspect. So we have the heroine. I hope I don't butcher this. I'm gonna go with Mayari. We'll see. She lives in like this moon colony that gets invaded by these aliens every handful of years, and they tend to just take the most beautiful women.
By take, I kind of mean it in a wink wink nudge nudge type of way. It's pretty violent, but they stay on the planet. They're not being taken from the planet. Hopefully that makes sense. Okay, bye.
This time around, when the raid happens, the king of their species, the king of these aliens, is with them this time. Not only is he with them, he has his eyes set on her for some reason. And she's confused by this because she's a hybrid alien human, it sounds like. And by the standards of this moon colony, she is not considered beautiful. So she's like, why? I don't get it. Good news is she's got a special little skill set. She is kind of a tinkerer, an engineer, and she's going to put that skill set to good use here because she's going to use this to get herself out of this mess. The reason I want to get to this one is because, one, I've just been seeing and hearing more about it now that it's been published wide because it did get taken down off of KU. And I did love this author's Dark City Omega series book. I think Beasts of Gatamora is actually the series. But regardless, I loved the sexual tension. I loved how she did Fated Mates. I thought it was very, very fun, but I'm just not quite in the mood to go to that next book. So I'm going to try this series and see how it goes. I've also just been kind of on a sci-fi kick lately, so why not indulge it? Next up, I have Nocturnes and Nightmares by Carrie Lake. This is the first in a duet. It's more like mystery thriller, kind of romantic suspense, somewhere in there. Obviously dark romance. We're in Chicago. Young socialites are going missing. At least 2 of them have shown up dead and show marks of a certain serial killer. This is not on our heroine's radar at all. She's a struggling single mother. She's trying to pay her bills. She's also like not the type he's going after. So this could not be further from her radar. But she has a rental unit on the back of her property that she is trying to get a renter for. An enigmatic man who's like a little bit too posh for this side of town named Rhett comes along and ends up offering her double what she was asking for. Being a struggling single mother, she cannot turn down this money. And also, like, he seems fine. He's quite charming. So what could possibly go wrong? Am I right? So the reason I want to try this one is because I've been meaning to read Carrie Lake for quite a while. I think I've had books of hers on my TBR, most anticipated, books I like want to read, like all sorts of different lists. I never seem to get around to her stuff because her books are chunky and it intimidates me. So I'm starting with a shorter book, hoping that can kind of get me hooked on her writing, feel a little bit more confident going into the book I really want to get to, which is Nocticadia, which I'm hoping to read in October because that was on last year's October TBR. So I'm hoping to get to it this year, but I wanted to try this one out and just like see if I jive with her writing. Also, like mystery thrillers, that kind of like suspenseful, it just feels October-y to me. October.
Guys, I genuinely think reading might be making me dumber. Last month I was having issues with counting in numbers, and this month apparently I can't keep the month straight. So you come up with a better explanation as to what's happening. Ugh, let's get back to it. Okay, bye.
No, fall are very fall-like. So I think that this will be a good one for this time of year. Next up is Break For Me by Ember Nicole. And this is a first in a proper series or a duet. I actually don't know, I realized. But there's multiple books regardless. And so it's a dark romance, and that's literally the only trope I know. We have our heroine Trista, and she has been on the run for a really long time. She's trying to escape her past, and she's used to just relying on herself. She can't really like make connections or afford not to be selfish. I get the sense that she kind of comes off manipulative. She's trying to just like get stuff done on her own. But she is really tired because being on the run for this long has just really taken a toll on her. Now, Jersey is our hero, and he is a hunter of sorts.
Hi, it's me. I'm back. Did you miss me? Probably not. Okay, so crucial detail that I missed from my outline is that he is working for an organization that's trying to hunt her down, which is why she's on the run in the first place. Okay, hopefully this whole thing makes way more sense now. Okay, bye.
He doesn't have any connections of his own, and he's very driven to succeed. He's the guy you bring in when everyone else has failed. He's the guy that gets the job done. What happens when two very isolated people come together and they're both used to doing whatever it takes to get what they need? That should turn out fine, correct? So this book weirdly has been all over my Instagram feed. It seems to be like people I follow have really read and loved this book, which is surprising because this has under 700 ratings on Goodreads. That caught me off guard. I just figured it was like a book talk book that I hadn't heard of because I'm not on there. But it got me really curious. Again, we've kind of got like some dark thriller suspense type of plot line. So that's why I wanted to give this one a go. And also, like, I'm just a curious cat. Like, everyone on my Instagram's talking about it. I want to know why. Next up, we have a book that I've been meaning to get to for a couple months now and just have seriously not been in the mood. And that is False Start by Candy Steiner. So this is the 5th and I believe the final book. I thought Hail Mary was the last book, but I guess this is the last one. Maybe? Or I at least assume. And it's a new adult sports romance. Sounds like it's got fake dating and a single parent. This is about Kyle, and he has appeared in the other books. He's now out of college. He's playing for a professional team in Seattle. This is how he ends up running into the heroine, and they have a little bit of a past, but where they end up meeting up is at a showing that she's doing for a house for a client. He is persistent as ever, seems to be ignoring that they have a very sad past of some sort, and ends up at some point asking to be taken on as a client. And for our heroine, this is life-changing amounts of money. She's trying to get out of Seattle. She's a single parent, and she is trying to escape an abusive ex. So she's definitely going to take him on as a client despite their sordid past. Why I want to get to this one is because I've been really excited to like see where his story goes. I just haven't really been in the mood because football, again, it's a seasonal thing. Football is in the fall because that's when you play the sport. But also I just haven't super been vibing with sports romance lately. I feel like they all, at a certain point, like they all kind of felt the same, where it's just the heroine like lusting after the big man on campus, you know? But also I am really excited about this one because it is Seattle based. So I'm hoping that it'll have some good Seattle references, better than some other books. Looking at you, Haunting Adeline. Those were not good. So I am really excited about this book. I think it's got a lot of things that I will like. I love fake dating. I sometimes like single parents, as long as the kid doesn't get in the way of the romance too much. But also, can I just say, look at this cover and tell me that this isn't a knockoff Chris Pine. Did you look? Because I'm not seeing football player. I'm seeing shirtless Captain Kirk. You know? Is anyone else getting that? Is this just me? Am I just that weirdo? Don't answer that question. Moving on. Now, I am going to get to the 3rd book in Pam Godwin's new series. What is that? Wait, what is that book called? I didn't even write down the title of this book. I just said Pam Godwin number 3. Tells you how much I pay attention to these titles. A Heart of Frost and Scars. This is the 3rd book in the Frozen Fate series. I feel like I've talked about this series kind of ad nauseum. I have a dedicated vlog about the first one. I feel like I've recommended the series quite a bit. It's been in my mid-year book freakout tag. I don't want to just continue to rehash it, so I'm going to be really brief with it, but I really do like this series. I don't want to bore you with the same synopsis. Yeah? Cool. So we have our woman, Frankie. Our woman. That doesn't make any sense. We have our heroine, Frankie, and she is stolen or abducted from her house and taken into the bush of Alaska. Very isolated, can only get in and out by plane. She doesn't really understand why, but she finds herself at the mercy of multiple men. Eventually, this will be a why choose. So we're going to get our HEA finally in this one. This is the final installment. It does have to be read in order. I'm really excited to get all the juicy details. I really need need to honestly read the end of the previous book because so many reveals happened. We got so much information. I need a refresher on that. All of that's going to get unraveled. I want to make sure I got my brain locked in and picking up on clues. I don't know what this is, but that's what I'm going to do to the book, I guess. All right. And finally, I am really behind on my priority reads for this year. So I think to hold myself accountable, I'm probably going to vlog this, so keep an eye out for that. First one that I want to get checked off is Unrequited by Saffron A. Kent. This is a standalone. It's new adult contemporary student professor, forbidden aspect. Our heroine becomes super infatuated with people. It sounds like she has a habit of stalking people. She believes she's done with it. She believes she's moving on until she encounters this very handsome professor around campus. And then the problem crops right back up. The only problem is this professor is very married. So warning, there's probably going to be cheating in this one. But he's pretty prickly and arrogant and thinks very highly of himself and his craft. I think if I remember correctly, he teaches poetry, English, something along those lines. Sounds like she really goes after him. Nothing says fall and back to school like a student-professor relationship. Am I right, folks? Yeah, so that's honestly part of the reason I was like, it's on a college campus and again, back to school. I don't know. Don't ask questions about my brain. It just goes places. But also, I just love an unhinged woman and I'm really ready for like a truly just unhinged gal. And I really love that unlike so many of the other books that I've read that are like student, teacher, professor, student, she's so heavily pursuing him. I kind of love that for her. The next one that I want to read is The Words by Ashley Jade. I think their story is a standalone, but there's like interconnected other books. There's like a spin-off duet or something along those lines. I don't think I said that correctly, but you get it. So this is like Rockstar, Second Chance. I think I'm the last person to read this book. I feel like I'm like several years late to this train, but regardless, we have our heroine and she is a high school geek. From my understanding, she's also plus size, doesn't have a ton of friends. The guy that ends up being the rock star, he's like super cool and she needs to tutor him. They end up sort of becoming friends and then have a falling out. Now, fast forward, it's years later. Our hero is on the road with his band. He's in a terrible place. He just lost someone that's really important to him and he is drinking and on a very self-destructive path and he needs a sober coach. The problem is he keeps banging all of them. They have to figure out someone who would never sleep with him. They go, this heroine hates him with a burning passion, and also she happens to need money, so they end up hiring her. This is probably one of Ashley Jade's most popular books. I've loved so many of her books though, and so like I know she writes unhinged in a way that just is like exactly the level of what the fuck, and also that's exactly what I wanted to have happen type of author for me. I'm excited to see a more emotional version of her writing, but I've been really chicken about this book because it's junky, it's chunky. I think that's why I need to vlog it. I think I need to, I don't think I'll read it otherwise. I have a feeling I'll chicken out. And finally, our last one, Blair by Anita Gray. This is the first in a dark romance series. I do not remember how many books there are, and I think technically this is even called like Blair Part 1, but it's a dark romance and has some captive. It sounds like our heroine, I'm gonna assume her name is Blair. That feels like a safe assumption. She has been kidnapped and in like a criminal underworld situation in brutal conditions for over 10 years. So she's been here a while and she has a ruthless captor named Maxim. She is really just trying to keep him happy. She fawns over him, never says no for fear of being punished. That's kind of like the conditions we find her in. All about to be upended because a guy named Charlie enters the picture. And it sounds like he's the enemy of Maxim potentially. And is someone she may have known previously. That's a little unclear. That's me reading between the lines. And for some reason, he has taken her as payment for part of a debt. And he gets to have her for 3 months and he's determined to change her. I think this is a really interesting one because usually when I read Captor Captive, we're getting someone at the beginning of their captivity and them slowly being broken down and just psychologically how that messes with them. This one is really different because we're coming into a situation and it sounds like maybe going to be either reprogrammed or deprogrammed. I don't know. It just sounds so different. I'm just curious what those kind of like conflicting conditions will do to a character because like I think she's got to go back to him at some point. So what does that do to a person? But those are all the books that I am hoping to read sometime in fall. Like I said, let me know if you want to see TBR videos every month, if you like that. If you are fine with the every other, let me know that too. I don't know which direction to take it, and I would love your input. Also, let me know what's on your TBR. What are you feeling for fall? Are you already starting to get into spooky, or are you still in triple digit heat like my trip to Phoenix? That is too hot for this time of year. That's unacceptable. That's why I live in the Pacific Northwest. Leaves are dropping already. That was a tirade no one asked for. Anyway, let me know what's on your TBR. And don't forget to like this video if you liked it, subscribe if you would like more content from me, and I really, really hope I see you on my next video. Bye-bye.